got any questions as we go along, please ask. Right, okay, so let's move us on. First things first, I am not going to spend a lot of time on this because I assume you've had sessions here to talk about your landscape, who you are and what you're doing in Africa. But I think it's just important to ground us again and just say that basically and very simply, what we've got is we've got accelerators, incubators, business hubs, and more that are providing resources, mentorship, and training into startups, into SMEs, and all of this is being done to ensure innovation, economic growth, job creation, and all those things that we need to make this continent a success. So really, looking at it from the ground up, we are never going to grow startups and SMEs and get to investable startups and SMEs if we don't have strong ESOs supporting the ecosystem. I'm not going to talk about the numbers, but the numbers are huge. You know, Africa's tech startups ecosystem in 2022 raised $6.5 billion US. That's a lot of money, right? Especially if you start converting that into local currencies. So the role that you guys play cannot be underestimated. The role is a difficult one, right? So if you live on this continent, you know that we've got challenges. And some of those challenges, oh, I went the wrong way, includes limited access to funding. I'm sure you've all been confronted with that. That's a big one, right? Infrastructure challenges. We spoke about the internet earlier this morning. We all know about power issues or energy issues, the energy crisis that we all face. And then finally, there is also talent gaps, right? So skills development and getting those skills to stay on the continent is a big issue. But it's not just all doom and gloom. There are some really massive opportunities on this continent as well. And some of those opportunities are represented by a growing youth population. We are not having conversations about where our next markets are going to come from. The rest of the world are having conversations about aging populations, right? Not having a market, a youth market that is coming through that they will have. And they're talking about how to improve that. So that's a massive opportunity for us on the continent. The other one is increasing digital adoption. So we're doing that leap, right? We're not going through all these building blocks that other countries and other regions have had to go through. We are leapfrogging straight into technology, which is a massive opportunity for us on this continent as well. And then finally, we've got untapped markets, right? When we look at entrepreneurs on this continent, they are really addressing real world challenges. So it's not like we have to wonder whether the market exists. Generally, when entrepreneurs start businesses in this market, they're starting businesses that have real world application. So it's not all doom and gloom, and it's a really, I think it's a fantastic opportunity to make a massive difference. So moving us on to what we need to talk about today. We are talking about designing support programs, right? So thanks for putting that Mentimeter code into the chat. And for those who came in late, it is www.menti.com. That's where you need to go. And you don't have to answer the questions all at once. You just have to answer them as you go along, right? So what are we going to be talking about today? We are going to be talking about designing support programs. And I'm going to divide that into 3 areas of interest. First, I'm going to be talking about needs assessments and program design. Then I'm going to be talking about how you develop a curriculum and content. And then I'm going to talk about how you deliver that program. We're also going to talk about facilitation and all of those good things a little bit later. But these are the first things I wanted to start talking about in terms of designing support programs. So if I move us on to designing support programs, I'm going to deal with the first one first. And I know there's a lot of words on this page. So don't try, I'm sure the presentation will get shared with you afterwards. So don't try and note it all down. Very happy for it to be shared with you afterwards. And just so that you know, all of the resources that I'll mention here are resources that I've included in an annexure at the end of the presentation. So don't try and jot everything down, but if something stands out to you, do jot it down. I will also be sharing that resources list with you. So you wouldn't know how to support an entrepreneur if you haven't done a needs assessment. So the baseline of creating any program has to be assessing what an entrepreneur needs. And you can do that through market research to understand the local ecosystem a little bit better. And you do that through surveys, focus group, interviews, and the likes. And if you are on Mentimeter right now, you'll see there's a slide that asks you, what are your preferences to try and get your ecosystem a little bit better? So feel free to put it in there so that we can all learn from each other. I'll also share the results from that Mentimeter. I'll share it with everybody so we can see what some of the preferred methodologies are. And what are you trying to do when you're doing that? You are trying to identify gaps, because those gaps are not going to look the same in every single ecosystem. And what you're trying to do is tailor a program that is relevant for that particular ecosystem. So you want to understand in that ecosystem, what's going on? Where are the difficulties? Where are the challenges? So when you do your assessment, your needs assessment, identify the gaps in skills, in resources, in support. Engage with local data providers to understand what does the local ecosystem look like? Who are the players in that local ecosystem? What are the market trends in that ecosystem? Are there specific challenges? Are there gender biases that exist, for example? What are those particular challenges so that you can design a program that actually addresses those specific issues? So one size does not fit all. You have to be very specific in how you design that program. So you have to look at the local needs of that ecosystem. You have to look at the sector. You have to look at the stage of the business. And you have to collaborate. Your best partners in ensuring a tailored program design are governments, universities, other non-government organizations, etc., that play in the markets. So start with the needs assessment, get the data out, and then use that data to tailor a design which is specific to the market that you are trying to support as an ESO. And on that note, I just want to check, are there any questions? Let me go back. Are there any questions from anybody? Do I need to take a pause? Do I need to take a break? Put up your hand or just interrupt me and let me know. I'm looking at the meeting meter and I can see that a lot of you have told me who you are. I've got venture builders in the room, incubators, accelerators, innovation hub, both, more than one. Are you able to move on to the next slide in the Mentimeter and tell me what your intended preferred assessment methods might be, whether it's surveys, focus groups, etc.? Just to have a look. See if you can see that. Do you need me to stop sharing? I'll stop sharing here, and what I'll do is I'll just show you how well you've done on the Mentimeter so far, so that you can see what's going on and what I can see. This one. Oh, I hope it's gone. Response summary. That's not the one I wanted to show you. Let me just take this out of my way. Oh yeah, well, I can show it like that as well. So it's mostly, it looks like there's mostly accelerators and incubators in the room today. There we go. Okay, so move on to the next slide. Are you able to move on to the next slide or the next question in Mentimeter to tell me what your intended preferred assessments methods would be? There we go. And then while you're doing that, oh, look at that. That's pretty. That looks better. My presentation is finally working. And then I'm moving us on to the next one, which has no responses as yet. So get some responses in there for me while I go back to my presentation. Okay. I'm going to stop share. And I'm going to start sharing my Prezo again. So no questions at this point in time? Okay, good show. I'm going to move us on. But remember, interrupt me. If I don't see your hand, just shout out. All right, so we've spoken that we need a needs assessment so that we can design a program which is specific to the geography or the ecosystem that you're attempting to support. Then you need to develop a curriculum and content. And it's really, really important that that content is comprehensive, right? So you need to be clear on how you're developing it. You need to talk about the entirety of the business cycle that an entrepreneur would be confronted by. So you need to go all the way from idea validation through to funding, through to scaling or growth. You need to focus on all the elements that feeds into running a business. And you know, because you're running your own businesses, you know what that means. You have to have modules on legal competencies, financial literacy. One of the biggest issues with startups and entrepreneurs is cash flow, right? Cash flow issues, not understanding how to manage their books, not understanding the implication of selling today, only getting your cash later, and what that means from a business continuity perspective. Marketing, technology, and how technology could support these businesses. There's a lot of technology that can be used to support small businesses that is actually quite affordable and reasonably priced and very accessible from a data perspective. So the core thing here is to remember that depending on where an entrepreneur is in its growth phase, it's going to need different things. So marketing might be a lot more important for an entrepreneur that is still in the early stages of establishing his or her business than it would be for an entrepreneur that has an established following, right? And just needs to do the bare minimum to keep the numbers growing. It's really, really important to also get experts involved. So when I design programs and when I get involved in program delivery, I try and surround the program with experts in various fields. So get an expert in cash flow management, get an expert in marketing, get an expert in tech to come and support the content that you deliver to these entrepreneurs. And where you can, try to get a mixture of local experts and also offshore experts, because offshore experts can also bring new thoughts and new dynamics into the conversation, while local experts can really help to address local challenges and issues. And then finally, and I keep emphasizing this, you need to make your content culturally relevant and regionally specific. So, I mean, I'm a woman, so the thing that comes to mind for me immediately is there biases in the delivery of the content that might be prejudicial to women in the conversation? So I always look at gender bias first, because it's such a massive conversation in the spaces that I play in. Are you being culturally biased? Are you being sector biased? So be very clear that your content is focused on localizing content and being conscious of bias. I did not include this in the resources, but Harvard has a free bias check that you can do, and it confronts everything from gender bias to cultural bias to everything, and it's these little bias tests that you can do. And it's always a good reminder for me to understand that your lived experiences are going to influence and impact how you look at things. So it's really important that when you do your needs assessment and when you carry that through into your actual program design, that you are aware of some of the unconscious biases that you might carry with you in doing that design, and that you check yourself every now and again to make sure that you are not bringing those biases into the conversation, and where you do, because you're only human, that you then course correct through addressing those biases in your content. All right, so I'm doing a quick check. Are you all still with me? Are we all still alive? Give me a thumbs up, a hands up, let me know. Oh, I got a thumbs up. Thank you, Precious. I got a thumbs up. Thank you, Ingrid. So you're all still alive, and you will interrupt me if you've got questions, because I am going through this content. It's quite a lot. But remember, you're getting the presentation afterwards. So please feel free to, yay, alive. Thank you, Emmy. Thank you, Max. So you are getting the prezo afterwards. So feel free. And you can also ask me questions after the session, right? I'm happy for the team to thanks, Donna, to collect some questions as well. If there was anything that comes up afterwards that you didn't have the opportunity to address here. So screaming through, one of the things that I know that you're going to be confronted with is, how do I deliver my program? And a lot of this, and I should have mentioned this upfront, a lot of this is also going to be dependent on your budget, right? And where your entrepreneurs are. So if your entrepreneurs are widely dispersed, virtual presentation or virtual delivery like this might be a better idea than trying to get them all into the room, where there will be budget, location, geographic, and other limitations. So I would encourage you in, and thank you for the responses. I see that we've got a couple of responses on intended delivery methodologies. And keep going through the Menti. The next question is, who do you intend to collaborate with? So is there anybody in your ecosystem that you can collaborate with? So you need to experiment, and I highly encourage experimenting in your delivery methods to the extent that you can, because what you're actually trying to do is not just deliver content, you're also trying to create a mini ecosystem within those entrepreneurs that you are empowering through your support that you are providing as an ESO. So the benefit of doing stuff virtually is that it's easier to scale, right? Because you're not being constrained from a budget perspective as much as you would be if you needed to get everybody in a room. And it makes content a lot more accessible, specifically for more remote regions than it otherwise might be. The downside of that is that you don't get the benefit of what happens when you get everybody into a room. So where you can, and if it is viable, on occasion, call it quarterly, depending on how long your program is, quarterly or maybe just once a year, to create an in-person platform for your entrepreneurs to network, to get some hands-on learning experience or exposure in a room together. I found with a lot of my cohorts, people learn in rooms together, right? When they are forced to engage with each other, look each other in the eye and have deep conversations. So where you are running a full virtual course, try and explore in-person networking opportunities or platforms and opportunities. So for example, if you are across a region, say Southern Africa, because that's where I come from, so that's familiar to me. Create maybe within the different countries that make up their region, create a little networking space once a quarter and get the entrepreneurs to lead those. So maybe create the first networking space, but then get the entrepreneurs as a cohort within that country or within that location within a country to lead a little networking platform once a quarter, or once every 6 months, or once a year, whatever makes sense. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to enhance collaboration within the entrepreneurial ecosystem as well, so that these entrepreneurs learn to collaborate better and learn from each other. So maybe through what I'm saying, you can hear I've got a bit of a bias. I prefer a hybrid approach, right? So I prefer an approach where you have the benefit of virtual delivery, that is then enhanced through in-person events or networking, or opportunities to get to know each other a little bit better. And for this purpose, I have put a whole number of resources in the list, the annexure. And I know that budget constraints are a big thing. So you will see that in the list, I talk about whether it's free, whether it requires a subscription, what the general costs are associated with it, etc. So I'm going to pause for a minute. Any questions at this point? How are we looking? Is this a lot? Do I need to slow down? Do I need to speed up? Some thoughts? Okay, well then, in that case, silence means I keep going at the pace that I'm going and I keep doing what I'm doing. So I'm going to move us on swiftly to the implementation phase. So now that you know, so you've done your needs assessment, you've designed a program, and you've decided whether you're going to deliver it online, you're going to take a bit of a hybrid approach, you can deliver it in person. I'm going to start talking about the implementation of support programs. And again, there are 3 elements that I'm going to talk about. The one is how to facilitate those workshops and training sessions. The second one is the importance of providing one-on-one mentorship and coaching. And then the third one is monitoring program progress and impact. And remember, I've got the Mentimeter running in the background, and there are questions that keep coming up. So it's not just one slide. Press next so that you can get to the next slide and the next question, because I am also going to ask you in that Mentimeter, like, what tools do you use? You might be aware of tools that don't even exist in my resource schedule that we can share with your counterparts on this program, the rest of your cohort as well. And then finally, we're going to talk about monitoring program progress and impact, which is a really, really important element. It doesn't stop with the delivering of the program. Monitoring program progress and impact is a major part of implementing a really successful program and being able to get donor funding to continue your operations. So moving on to facilitating workshops and training sessions. The hardest part is going to be planning effective workshops. It's really, really hard when you do workshops like this, which is online, because it's really hard to feel the temperature, right, of the room. Are people engaged? Are they actually listening to you? Are they thinking about your content? Are you actually providing content that is useful for them? I find the best way to create engaging content is to use real-world case studies, right? Get people in your room. We don't have time for that today, to role play. So if you want an entrepreneur to understand an investor better, get them to be the investor and get the investor to be an entrepreneur. So swap their roles, which creates empathy. So an investor might get a little bit more empathy for some of the challenges that entrepreneurs are faced with when they're trying to raise capital. And entrepreneurs might get a little bit more empathy for what some of the questions are that investors need to answer before they can get comfortable with investing their monies into entrepreneurial businesses. Interactive learning generally works well. So where you can encourage group discussions, so you're creating that collaborative element to your cohort. Encourage polls, do quizzes, do something like I've done now with the Mentimeter, where people can get to know each other a little bit better. So they understand who's in the room, who's doing what are they busy with, where do they need support, what do they like, what would they like to do better, etc. And then really make virtual tools work for you, right? There are so many virtual tools that you can do to create a community. I know WhatsApp is very popular to create separate communities for entrepreneurs and to exchange information. And I've provided a whole list at the end of this presentation that you can look at and that you can experiment with within your cohorts of entrepreneurs that you support. This is a very, very big element, I think, of what makes for a successful program, and that's the ability to provide one-on-one mentorship and coaching. And we've learned that individualized support generally works well. So what you want to do is you want to pair your entrepreneurs with experienced mentors, somebody who's been there before, somebody who's done it before. an entrepreneur or an investor ecosystem that does that really well is Endeavor, where they take entrepreneurs through their programs. And once those entrepreneurs have seen investment, they encourage those entrepreneurs to then pair with entrepreneurs who still have to come through the system, build a business, and get investment in. It's really, really important in those relationships that there's a strong element of trust and that expectations are clearly set. So it can't be a one-way investment. Mentors have to be appreciated by entrepreneurs for the time and the experience that they bring to the entrepreneur. And equally, mentors have to be willing to give up time and experience and knowledge in that relationship. So I'm going to encourage you. And one of my questions in the Mentimeter is, do you already have an existing pool of mentors and coaches? I'm going to encourage you earlier in your program design to start finding those mentors and mentors and coaches, and to develop a list of mentors and coaches that you can call on, and to make that list as broad as possible, because people are exhausted, right? So try and broaden your list of mentors so you can cycle through them. So it's not the same people that you are asking over and over to give. So broaden your list as much as you can so that you can spread the load between those mentors and mentors and coaches as much as possible. The best model that we've seen work is where there is regular check-in between the entrepreneur and the mentor. There is the ability for on-demand coaching so that an entrepreneur can reach out and say, I have this challenge in my business. This is what I need coaching on. And you can only respond to that if you've got an existing list of coaches and mentors that you can call on. You can also do group mentorship sessions. So if in your needs assessment, you see that there's a common issue that all the entrepreneurs in your cohort is confronted with, work it into your mentorship schedule and do group mentorship sessions, especially when mentors are more difficult or more time limited. So you can get that mentor to just diversify the message through your cohort in one session. And it's really, really important that you sustain that mentorship base. The better that mentors get to know the entrepreneurs that you're working with and the challenges that they are confronted with, the better they become in providing nuanced support. So try and create an alumni network of mentors that consist of entrepreneurs, industry experts, and business leaders. Precious, I see your hand is up.
Yes. Just on the mentorship, I just wanted to ask maybe the ESOs if they could possibly share their experiences in finding mentors.
It's a good question.
Is it easy to find mentors? Is it difficult?
Anybody who's willing to answer that question? Ingrid, go for it.
Hi, it's Ingrid from A4IR in South Africa. My experience has rather been in two-way. With my previous employer, it was the Innovation Hub, which is a company that's just been in existence since the early 2000s. So for that particular company, it was not such a difficult thing to find mentors. Then I transitioned, now I'm with AB4IR. We struggle to find mentors. What we usually do, we'd issue a call out, reach out to other fellow entrepreneurs from alumni, from where we used to work, or even industry experts, and encourage them to apply. So we would do a two-way form. One, it's a call, general, anyone can apply. Then we assess, we do sessions with the mentors, we contract those that are eligible. And then the other option would be for those that we feel this one is a better fit. Say, for example, Melanie, if we were to decide we would like to have you on board, would approach you and then contract on those bases. But the challenge that we came across now at AB4IR with the advert was that we were finding generic mentors. It's easy to
Yes.
find a business development mentor, your finance mentor, and the likes. But as soon as you start going technical, that is where we're having most challenges. So I think it's not necessarily a tricky part. It's a matter of advertising, distributing on social media platforms through networks. But the challenge that I've come across is finding the necessary expertise. That is where my challenge is at. Thank you.
Thanks, Ingrid. Precious, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And thank you so much for sharing that, Ingrid. Thanks, Melanie.
Yeah, Ingrid, you know, it's not a surprise to me to hear that. And that is why I also encourage cross-border mentorship, right? Because there might be a wider pool of expertise available outside of your geography. And I know that if you've worked for TIA, then you're probably based in South Africa, right? And if I think of South Africa relative to the rest of the region, we're in a privileged position because we generally do have more expertise or a pool of expertise available to us. So it's really important that we continue to build that pool of expertise. And that's where organizations like TIA and others, the Innovation Hub, etc., is so important, right? And in your wherever you might be in your regional spaces, those government organizations or otherwise are so important. And that's why it's so important for you as an ESO to build your own list, right? And to continue to build onto that list and to continue to search and to continue to put out the marketing so you can really build a list that is relevant for what you're trying to address in terms of the support you're trying to deliver. But it's a massive challenge. And I did ask the question in the Mentimeter, and I see you guys are not filling in the Mentimeter. You need to fill in the Mentimeter so we can get to know you a little better. Whether you have an existing pool of mentors or not, because it might be one of the things that we might want to see if we can provide some support on, right? I might have access to a whole ecosystem of mentors that I can bring to the program, but I wouldn't know that I could if you didn't put your hand up. Thank you, Precious. I'm always happy to share, right? I believe in collaboration. So the more you share with me, the more I can support and help and connect dots. Right, so conscious of time, I just want to see, is there anything in the chat? Eric, I see whatever you've put in the chat is loading, so apologies if I'm not responding to it. I can't see what it is right now, but I can see that you put something in the chat and hopefully it will load. So what does it say, Eric? Mentimeter. You've put a picture in there for me. What do I need to see? I need to see. Okay, so is it working for you, Eric? Maybe talk to me. My screen sharing has been paused. Let me just go back, close that, go back to my Zoom.
Madam.
Yes, I'm listening.
I'm lost at the Mentimeter. I don't find the engagement.
You lost the Mentimeter.
I've just shared my screen.
Okay, resume share. Okay, I'm back. I'm lost at the Mentimeter. What
Am
does
I at
that
the
mean?
right? Is my screen? Am I at the right site?
Yes, so I can see that you are at the Mentimeter. And are you actually addressing the questions? Because I can see that you can also see the presentation.
Where do I find the engagement? I don't find the engagement. What
you
are the
not
questions? Where do I find the question?
So what are you seeing when you see the Mentimeter? Are you not seeing the questions? I'm trying to make this bigger so I can see what. Give me 1 second. I'm just zooming in here so I can see what you can see. Do you see slides there with questions? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Not really.
Okay,
Where do I find
we
my
got an
president?
issue with. So who put in the? I do see that some of you put in answers.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to share this again. Let me just see, enable anyone with the link. It's hard for me to see, but give me 1 second. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger again. So Okay, so you've logged into Menti. So you've actually just logged yourself in. So you haven't put in the code. That's why you can't see it, right?
Oh,
so
sure.
you see what's going on here. Shared with me. Hit on a shared with me and see if there's the ability for you to put in the code.
Okay.
I have the same challenge. I actually got on, and but I mean it's just telling me the slides haven't been going. I type code. So that's all I can do.
The slides haven't.
The presenter hasn't changed slides yet. That's all.
I haven't changed the slide, so it's my fault. So you've done the first one and you can't do the next. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, the only first thing I did was to fill in whether we are an incubator or a hub or or an accelerator, and that's it. And move to the next. I
Okay.
put start.
Okay, so let me stop sharing here for a second. I'm going to put back a presentation now that I've confused myself here. And then I am going to fix that quickly. Let's share. So we're back on the presentation. And then let's see. Interactivity, questions are available to everyone. Enable live chat. Yes, that should also be moderator pro. Okay, I just want to check that you can move on to the next slide. Share. Slides. Anyone embed the slides, editors, it's only me. And I just want to see that you can move on from the one slide to the next slide. Interactivity, it's enabled. It should move on to the next slide. This is the problem with tech, right? Tech doesn't always work the way you want it to work. So I'm just going back here to make sure that it works. But I don't want to spend too much time because I've got limited time with you. I'm going to fix this while we chat. And then I am going to ask that you even complete it afterwards for me. It's going to be open for the next 4 days and you'll be able to see the results even if I'm not around. So I'll fix it and then you guys keep going on it, right?
Okay, that's okay.
Good. Okay, good. So thank you for letting me know. Okay, we're moving on to the next slide. So we've just finished this coaching conversation. We're moving on to the next slide, which by the way is also the last slide, right? So we're there. We've made it in time. So on this one is really important because if you don't get this right, guys, you're going to have no data to share or to learn from, number one, so to improve your next program. And you're going to have no data to share with potential funders, right? And that is a crisis. That is a real crisis because you are going to need funding to continue to deliver these programs. You're all reliant on funding, right? So I cannot emphasize how important this is for you. You're going to have to not just for that, you also want to tell success stories because part of what you're trying to do is you are also trying to get the ecosystem to support you better as an ESO. And part of that is investors being less risk averse and more trusting in their decision-making when it comes to investing in entrepreneurs. So you want to track success. And on this one, it means that you're going to be tracking key performance indicators. And I'm going to encourage you to keep those as simple as possible. Please don't try and track everything. Track what is important to the space in which you play. So whether it's the number of businesses created, growth in revenue, job creation, whether they were able to secure funding or not. Choose 4 to 5 maximum. Measure those and make sure they are relevant in the ecosystem in which you play. And then continue to get feedback, right? Don't work in a silo. So get feedback from your participants so you can improve the support that you provide. Make sure that you stay in touch with businesses, even once they've been through your incubator or your accelerator, so that you can continue to follow their successes and continue to use that in your marketing materials. Make sure that those networks stay in place. So encourage collaboration in your cohort. So even after they leave your program, they continue to engage. encourage them to bring in others that come through your accelerator after they've been through your accelerator. So you're building an alumni network of entrepreneurs. If you want to create long-term sustainability for yourself as an ESO and for your programs to really build a legacy and be able to raise funding, that is going to be really, really important. So often collect that data, put it into a great story and share it with your funders and your supporters. So make sure you regularly report back to your funders and your supporters. So that really is it, right? So key takeaways, you need to really tailor your program design and your delivery. You need to make sure you've got nuanced mentorship and that you're tracking progress and that you are really building scalable and sustainable solutions as an ESO that is building a business in Africa. I'm opening up for Q&A, but just before I do, here's all the resources and tools. There's plenty. I've put all of them in there. If you've got any to add, let us know. We'll add them to this resource list. Those are the ones I'm aware of, but if you know of more, please, please, please add them. Share them with your cohort. So, open to question and answers. We've got 2 minutes left for questions and answers. But as I said, I'm happy to stay a little bit longer, and I'm also available after the session if necessary. So, any questions and answers? Nothing. Come on.
I have a question. I have a question regarding tracking. What's the easiest way to track your KPIs?
That's a good question, Precious. So it really depends on what type of software you've got in place, right? So let me just go back to my screen share, if you'll allow me for a minute just to go back. I just want to take you to that. I've got two that I really like to use for measurement. I just want to go right to the end. Oh, I've gone too far. Apologies. Let me go back. Share screen. Just want to share it, and I just want to put it in preso mode. That's it. Okay. So I've got a couple that I really appreciate for measurement. So there's B Impact Assessment, which is a free tool. But the problem is it's only focused on social and environmental impact, right? So if you can look at that. And then my suggestion would be that you try and replicate it through Excel. Excel is a beautiful measurement tool. So build your own measurement tool on the back of that. And if you've got some money to spend, look at Airtable and look at M&E tools as well. Airtable is really, really cool because it allows you to organize your data, track milestones, and report on some of your long-term program outcomes in a very nice way. So it makes it visually appealing. What I'd like to use to get data out of my cohort is SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey is really the easiest way. If you can't afford SurveyMonkey, Google Forms is a good way to go about it. But send surveys out asking the same question over and over and over again. Because if you're not asking the same question, you're not measuring the same data. And tell your participants up front what data you're going to measure, right? What KPIs you're going to measure. So they also get into the mode of collecting that data for you and do a regular feedback loop. So I ask for data collection on my programs, which generally run for 12 months. I ask for it on a quarterly basis, and I ask for it within 15 days of quarter close. And I try and align, I align those quarters to the program. And I generally do it on a calendar year basis because that's easiest. So for me, it's about consistency in the question you ask. So you're comparing apples with apples. It's about telling participants upfront what you're going to measure. And it's then using a tool which is easy for everybody to use. Use SurveyMonkey and then go feed it into a tool like a BI measurements or similar. Does that answer your question, Precious?
Yes, thank you. It does.
Perfect.
And thank you for sharing these resources. This is very useful.
You're so welcome. And if there are more, guys, if I've missed any, let me know. I know not all of them are free, and I'm sorry. I wish I could make all of them free, right? But some of them are quite reasonably priced. So have a look. I've also given you some project management tools that you can look at. And then obviously everything that goes with, there's a nice little poll. Poll everywhere is quite fun. But go and have a look at that in your own time. If you've got anything to add, please add it there. I have still not been able to figure out why my Mentimeter isn't moving on. So I'm going to fix that. So if I could ask you to just afterwards take some time later this evening, I'll fix it now, later this evening or first thing this morning or over the next 4 days, if you can participate in that, just to see what I did wrong, what I didn't get right there. Any other questions or comments or experiences that you want to share before you all drop off? I'm seeing nothing in the question participants list, and I'm just checking the chat quickly. You're very, very welcome, Eric. I'm glad to hear that there was a little bit of insight that I could share this morning. Anyone?
Melanie, just a very quick one for
Max.
you. Yeah, regarding the mentors, I wanted to ask: is the standard to compensate mentors, or expect that there are people who will be able to work without compensation?
Repeat that. I just want to make sure I understand, Max.
With regard to mentors, I've been on programs where we struggled with mentors because they were not compensated. So they
yes.
we good and they're supporting entrepreneurs, but later maybe it becomes too much work for them. So I was just wondering, is the standard to have some sort of compensation available for the mentors?
Yeah. So you're never going to be able to pay mentors what they're worth, right? Because we're all running on tight budgets. But what I've tried to do is when I do funding request, I specifically put mentors in there as a budget line item, and then I allocate hours. So what we do with mentors to also address abuse by entrepreneurs or potential abuse by entrepreneurs of having that mentor available is we limit the amount of time. So we say to an entrepreneur, you get 6 hours a quarter. You can choose in agreement with your mentor how you spend those, and both the entrepreneur then signs a little agreement in a letter of undertaking with us when we roll out our programs, and they say we agree we only have 6 hours, we'll spread it out over the quarter, and we agree to engage with the mentor on the following on the following expectations. And then we say to the mentor that he or she only has to take the mentorship if it's been set up, or the meeting if it's been set up a day in advance, or 24 hours or 48 hours in advance. And they can then agree upfront the times and dates that the entrepreneur will use those 6 hours, and we then compensate for those 6 hours. So the 6 hours is baseline. If the entrepreneur wants more time with the with the mentor, they can engage with the mentor and then agree a payment plan. But we tend to limit it from an hour perspective, and then we give, I almost want to say it's just a thank you payment more than it is an actual reflection of the entrepreneurs, of the mentor's time. But we do tend to pay our mentors, and we put it in as a very specific line item in the budget. Otherwise, mentors get tired, and mentors also have to earn a living, right? But and I think mentors have come to this point because they have been abused, maybe in the past, overused, and not appropriately recognized. So it's a big thing, Max, and you have to find a way to broaden your mentor list, as well as compensate them, or at least recognize them. for their time and their input.
Okay, that's helpful. Thanks.
And I also think, Melanie, just to add, to have those discussions up front with the mentors, the potential mentors. So just to play open cards with them. This is where you are. This is what you can afford. You know, this is the help you need. I think that really helps.
Absolutely. That's such an important point. So set out the expectations. You know, my little rules of engagement slide at the beginning when we started, have the same with your mentors, that you engage and make sure that the entrepreneurs understand what the rules of engagement with the mentor is as well. Anything else? Okay, so I'm going to see how many businesses come through your ecosystems in the next 12 months, so we can start investing in them. 10, 5, 50. I want to see thousands, right? There's lack of pipeline, so we want to see the entrepreneurs come through. Anything else?
Eric, you look very deep in thought.
You say I'm looking?
Very deep in thought.
Okay.
So guys, before you drop, put yourselves on screen so we can take another group photo, because I see, Donna, you need to go. So put yourself on screen quickly. Video's on so we can take a group photograph. Quickly, 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 quickly. Quickly, 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 quickly. Are we all on yet? Come on, put your videos on. We need to take a group photo. Yes, Donna, thank you. I appreciate it. Put your videos on. Videos on. We need a group photo. I want to put it on LinkedIn. I want to put it everywhere. Max, thank you. Anybody else going to come and join us? Donna has to go. So quick, quick, quick. Put your video on. Okay.
Donna,
have I got a
Donna, please stay for 5 minutes. Please stay, Donna, just for 5 minutes. This is our last session.
Okay, I'm taking a group pic. Are we all smiling? Come on, put yourself on screen and smile. Smile. Okay, I've got a group pic. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you. Okay, before Donna goes, I just want to say thank you so much, Melanie. I was taking notes throughout because I think the session was very relevant to every business owner, and it was very useful. And I also just want to say we have now come to the end of our sessions for ESOs, and we just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. We know when we started, it was a bit of a bumpy road, and we received a lot of pushback from you guys. But we are so glad that you stayed throughout the program. This has also helped us to grow and learn from you as a program. And I just wanted to open the floor just for a few minutes to anyone who has something to say, because this is our last session, but we'll be having our final session next week with Josh before our pitch events in October. So this would be your last opportunity, ESO to ESO. You can go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, sure. I just want also to appreciate Africa Startup Forum for this wonderful experience. You know, when we started as Innovation Spark Africa, when we started to be an ESO, we actually didn't know that we had a family that we could share together. So we just started on our own formula, on our own programs. You know, we did not even know that we need to organize ourselves, and that there was a family and some conventional ways on how to organize ESOs. So, but when we entered into the system in supporting entrepreneurs, then we realized, oh, that we have a family. In fact, we now realize that we are called an accelerator. You know, we did not actually know what we would be called. We just thought that perhaps we are just stepping in to a new zone where we just need to see how we can help entrepreneurs who are in innovation. But later on, we realized we are called an accelerator. Then again, now we are realizing that there is some clear work programs on how to go about when giving capacity to innovators. And we are glad that right now we are actually accelerating close to 15 innovative Nairobi.
Wow.
And actually, there is so much innovation. That's what I've realized to engaging these innovators, and we are looking forward to this. I think this exposure that you have given us is actually going to enrich us and perhaps expand our network and capacity in helping entrepreneurs who are in innovations, in growing, in creating economic value and perhaps employment opportunities within the ecosystem. We're thankful so much. Thank you, Malani, for the insightful presentation, and we appreciate your support. Thank you,
I
Alon.
love being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you.
You've been one of the consistent ESOs, and you have grown with us from day one, and we really appreciate having you in the program. And all the
Thanks so
best for the Peach events in October. We wish you all the best. Anyone
Thanks
else
so much.
who wants to say something? Melanie, we'll probably invite you as well for the Peach events.
I'd love to be there.
Yeah, and maybe you can bring some of those fund managers to come here.
We can absolutely do that.
Oh, no, thank you so much. Sorry, Courage, over to you.
Thank you. If I could just come in while we wait for the next ESO, if anyone wants to say anything. I just wanted to encourage the ESOs to please complete the post-workshop surveys. It's how we improve. It's also how we know whether or not you've understood, if there are any needs that need to be met before we complete the program. So please, please, please. I think I'll post again the links to all four, including the one from today. The links for all post-workshop surveys, and I just encourage everyone to just complete them.
Thank you so much. And we've also learned from Melanie the importance of tracking. So this is what we are actively doing. We're monitoring and we're tracking each other's progress as we finalize, as we come to the end of the program. Donna, do you have any last words for us?
Not really, just to thank you for the opportunity and for the work you're doing. I think a number of us have learned, a few things from here. Some came more knowledgeable, but I believe we all had to, pick up something again from this training or from these workshops that have been going on. And of course, the networks as well. I believe we've also gained the networks from here. And it's very key because, we're looking at an all-African kind of ecosystem. So this is also very being good for many of us. But let's just keep in touch and continue doing the good work. Otherwise, I would like to thank everybody else, the different ESOs that have been participating to the end, and to all the different trainers, facilitators, and everyone who's been a part of this. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Donna. You have also been so consistent. I know when we started, there was a bit of resistance from your side as well, but I'm glad you stayed and we have really grown together. And I also just want to go back to what Melanie said about building that mentorship list, that within us here in this ecosystem, it's easy for us to now do it. We can build those networks. We don't have to go out there or expect something from out there. We can just start from here. So let's maintain those networks. Let's maintain the contact even beyond the program. Imi, any words from your side? Okay. Ingrid, I know you've joined us late in the program, but it has been such a pleasure to have you on board. And I don't know if you have any last words from your side.
Am I audible?
Yes, now you are.
Okay, thank you. That's I'm sitting here thinking that I joined slightly late. It seems like I may have missed out on a lot of sessions, but for the parts where I have joined, it's been very much beneficial process. It's been good to connect with everyone, learning from everyone. At AB4R, we actually don't believe in working in silos. Part of our objectives rather, they spell out build, and each alphabet has its own meaning. And our L on build, it's on leveraging on the ecosystem to better assist our SMMEs and the communities that which we service. So I'm hoping this will not be the end of the road for every one of us, the ESOs, that would be able to continue connecting, collaborating. AB4R, our North Star is to expand into Africa and not only be in South Africa, but want to be in other continents. So it would be good to keep contacts. Who knows, maybe I might just be expanding. Eric is there in another continent in Africa. He can maybe help me out. So that's where I'm coming from now to say, I would love for us to continue connecting over and above this program. Let it not be the end of it. So if everyone permits, I'd like to extend this request to ATSF to share the contacts with all of us so that we can continue connecting over and above this. But I'm really appreciative. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ingrid. Thank you. Just maybe on that note, I think it would be wise for you guys to create a group for only the ESOs where you can just keep in touch even beyond the program.
I agree with that one and I support.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know, Eric, if you want to share your number on the group. Sorry, on the chat. Quickly
Can do
before
that.
we drop.
Maybe
Yeah.
I share my email so that our fellow ESOs could perhaps share their contacts to my email so that we can create.
Please do that.
All right.
That's a good idea. Yeah, please do that. Amy, last chance. Okay, I think I'm going to hand over to Melanie. I think you wanted to say something quickly before we drop.
Yeah, I fixed the Mentimeter, everybody. It was one little setting that I messed up. I'm so sorry. So if you've got a moment, just quick, it's 6 questions, and it just helps me to understand where you're at and what are some of the things that you're struggling with. Mentorship is coming through, right? Finding mentors, building up that database, that's really coming through. And then I've just added my email address. I just checking that I spelled it correctly. Yes, I did. My email address in the chat. So if there's anything that I can ever help with, send me an email and prod me. If I don't respond to you within 2 days, prod me, because it's either gone to my junk mail or I've just been so overwhelmed I haven't gotten to you yet. And then it's good to put yourself back at the top of my mailbox. And if you want to, go and find me on LinkedIn as well. Connect with me on LinkedIn. There might be opportunities that I share on LinkedIn that might be relevant for you. So find me on LinkedIn and connect with me there as well, if you'd like to.
Thank you, Melanie. I do encourage you guys to do that. Please connect with Melanie and speak to her, stay in contact. You'll never know. That's, again, how we're building networks and relationships beyond the border. So I think this is it from our side. Please do expect, as Courage has said, that final survey from us. And anything else, Courage? I think it's that inline survey. That's the final one. Okay.
Yes, the inline. We'll be putting through links for the inline. But for now, just the 4 ESO surveys. Please make sure you complete them, not just from today, but if you missed any of the other surveys, please just complete them as well. I'll make it a point to attach all the links for the four surveys.
Thank you so much, Courage. And Eric has shared his email address. I see Ingrid has also shared her contact details. So please save them quickly before we hang up.
Yeah. Perhaps we members could share our contacts to that email, the email I've just shared, so that we can create our WhatsApp group for
ESOs, yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you to everyone. We'll share the presentation as well. Excuse me, from Melanie. But if you have any questions, you have our email address, you have our contact details, please feel free to reach out. We'll see you next week for the last session and then in October for the pitch events. Thank
Good luck,
you.
guys.
Thank you, Melanie.
You're
Cheers,
so
guys.
welcome. Bye.
Bye.